This next bit opens with a similar structure to some of the news programs, just amped up to an even further degree. It starts with an outlandish assertion, then distorts every fact leading up to the laugh. It's encouraging a simple understanding and peer pressure to join the joke or be left out. Also note how the comedy shows pick it from the news programs earlier in the day.
Think about how insane this is.
This is a very similar opening frame to "No one disputes" used in the earlier example.
Think about how insane this is. Two of the most senior officials in our government called up a scientific agency and threatened.
Actually, the Chief of Staff told the Commerce Secretary, which oversees NOAA and the NHC, to clarify the tweet that had caused the issue. Each person in our government contacted exactly the person they were supposed to.
And threatened to fire them unless they changed their forecasts about a dangerous hurricane.
The spokesman for the Commerce Department said no one was threatened with firing, and indeed no one was fired. The Birmingham tweet wasn't a forecast, it went against the forecasts, and they weren't asked to change it. Commerce Secretary Ross contacted NOAA's acting administrator and told him to fix the agency's perceived contradiction of the president.
Just so they could pretend the president was right when...
It wasn't about pretending, it was about getting NOAA to highlight language and generate another news cycle showing not only that Trump had some backing for his statements, but that the Birmingham field office was flat out wrong to use absolute language.
He accidentally said a state that was not in the hurricane's path would get hit.
He didn't say it would sustain a direct hit. Even the Birmingham tweet recognized he meant some kind of impact.
I mean, what's next?
What's next is this show then starts creating fake tweets that look just like real tweets. Keep in mind that many people report that they get their news from late-night comedy programs. They've got to exaggerate everything to keep their mental framework. The hive mind of the media is what seems pathological. As a group, they cannot back down.
He simply is not capable of processing information.
And if you simply continue to insist that you got it right, a lot of people are going to believe you, and a lot of people aren't going to believe the media, which has he's helped create a credibility problem.
The media created their own credibility problem. Trump isn't insisting in this case. This is a fake media scandal that they started, and they're the ones that insist on not backing down. The coordinated media had a weak hand, and they overplayed it, basing this whole scandal on this minor issue. Global News Canada reported the full narrative and included the actions of the mainstream corporate media, as I have here. It reported that from August 28 through September 2nd, information that NOAA provided to Trump showed that Alabama could be hit by tropical storm force wind, and that this was clearly demonstrated in 26 different hurricane advisories displaying wind speed probabilities. Indeed, a graphic produced by the administration shows outlying winds from Dorian hitting Alabama. But this was apparently news to the Washington Post.
We've seen since his book, The Art of the Deal, the ghostwriter, the co-writer of that book, someone who the president doesn't even like to acknowledge he had a ghostwriter, right?
Actually, Tony Schwartz is credited on the cover of Art of the Deal. The Wikipedia page on ghostwriting states that when credit is established for the writer, the acknowledgement of their contribution is public domain, and the writer in question would not be considered a ghostwriter.
People say that this guy would lie about the weather.
This trope about Trump lying is another media distortion, and those supposed lies are dramatically exaggerated and arguable. The actual funny thing about weather is people basing their entire spiel on weather forecasts ever being exactly correct in absolute terms. As we've seen throughout this video, all while the National Weather Service forecast still showed a 5% chance of storm force winds in southeast Alabama, only the Birmingham tweet spoke in absolute terms, and they were out of line and unscientific for doing so, and all the humor over 2 weeks and all the hysteria was based on that.
What do you reckon our allies and or adversaries make of what they're seeing if they're getting a feed of this broadcast or any other tonight?
Hopefully our allies and adversaries have better information sources than an MSNBC show. There are embarrassing errors and weak examples all through this broadcast. They have American flags up behind them. They're reaching out to foreign governments around the world, presenting a twisted, propagandized version of the rightfully elected leader of the United States, then posing themselves as a substitute repository of national stability.
The president creates his own reality and
he lives within his own reality at times, and he refuses to back down in the face of obvious evidence to the contrary.
This piece is also called He Lives Within His Own Reality, so obviously that is a scripted line they were all told to use. Rather than just report the facts, they are weaponizing this information. So hopefully our allies and adversaries recognize it for what it is. The establishment media and people in the television news media are truly in an echo chamber. Much of that abstract info you learned about propaganda is now all actually happening. We know echo chambers are real. We're looking at one. It's easy to think the media watches too much television and ultimately lives within their own reality. If any of this perspective was worthwhile to you, please give it a like so the video is suggested to more potential viewers. I think this story is a good example of what the corporate media is doing constantly, day after day, and as I've dug into this story, I've come across several additional points and updates that belong in a second video, so please subscribe and make sure you receive a notification. There are success stories and ongoing problems related to Dorian that all deserve more attention and follow-up, while the corporate media is off to cover their next attack on Trump. And if I could ask you for one more favor, it's to download and start using the Brave browser, using the links attached to this video. It's built on the open source foundation of Chrome. It's at least twice as fast as other browsers because it has the corporate bloatware removed and privacy walls built in and on by default, and it easily connects to an ecosystem that replaces traditional internet ads in several different ways, getting the ad trackers out and making the pages look cleaner, while supporting the publishers and companies and people you want to support. All of which could make the Brave browser one key part of a more distributed, resilient, censorship-free internet. Things that we thought were just basic principles of the internet. Hope you liked the video. Please share it with your research groups and networks.